but I never like expected anything. And it's like, okay, yeah, the things come, which is nice, but I still believe that as as I get older, I'm always gonna have to make shit myself, record my own albums. I could, record my own special. Like, you don't have to wait for, that you can make shit happen. You can produce your own shows and like be a nice person and not shit on anyone while you do it.
Hot breath. All right. Hot Breathiverse. Welcome back to Hot Breath, the show where you learn comedy from the pros. I'm your host, comedian Joel Byers. And today we have a very special guest by request, might I add you, from a member of this community. He actually saw her in a Zoom show and was like, this is one of the funniest comics I've ever seen. We've got to have her on the show. And now, without further ado, she is on the show, the one, the only, Vanessa Gonzalez, everyone. Give it up for Vanessa.
Hello.
Woo!
Yeah, the crowd's going crazy, I'm sure.
It is. I'm doing an applause sound effect for you right now.
Oh, great.
So, welcome. Thank you for doing this, first off. It's so great to have you on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me. That's so nice to hear. I've been doing these Zoom shows,
Mhm.
and I'm like, I don't know what people are. Most of the time they're muted. I can't see them. So it's very nice to be like, oh, someone liked it.
Is that what you've been doing with your time mostly?
Yeah, I mean, so I was doing comedy full time and hitting the road and all, and then this hit, and I was like, oh no. And at first, like in March, I was like, I'm not gonna do Zoom shows, but it's like that's all we got now. So I had to adapt and figure it out. Though I'm glad it's kind of working.
Yeah, that's great. How often are you doing them? Because there is some questions, some of like, are they even worth doing and things like that. But like, what's been your experience with them?
Well, luckily I've been able to do like one or two a week.
Wow.
Um, yeah, of like stand up, quote unquote stand up, even though I'm sitting in my pajamas in my house. But yeah, it's been interesting. Sometimes there's just like 12 people in the Zoom,
Hmm.
and I've done some where there's like more people. So it's been nice when like people are unmuted and you actually hear laughs again. I think that's what I miss most, is hearing people laugh.
Oh my
That's
gosh.
what fuels us.
I know.
Um,
And that energy, I think that's what I miss
yeah.
is like that. I mean, the high from it. I mean, it's a
Yeah,
drug,
exactly.
you know.
Yeah.
And I'm working on like, I'm making the most of it by really like building this Facebook group and really focusing on the
Mhm.
podcast and building the community and connecting with
Mhm.
comics. But it is like, there's still though the stage. It's just like,
I know. There's nothing. Yeah. We're all addicts. We all have
yeah.
problems. But yeah, it's not the same. It's not the same. And I find myself like, because I'm in Austin right now,
Hmm.
and I see that like in New York and LA, they're starting to do like outside shows, which seems nice and safe for people. But in Austin, it's just too damn hot. Like even at
Oh.
night, even like, well, it's like 9 p.m. and it's 98 degrees. Like nobody wants to be sitting outside. So hopefully we can like figure out something like that here in Austin, but in a safe way. But yeah, I definitely miss the thrill of making a group of people laugh in front of you.
Yeah, yeah, because you started comedy in Austin, right?
Yeah, I started here. I was here for about 10 years, and I moved to LA, and I was
Oh.
in LA for 2 years, doing the grind. And then
What is
everything
that grind
happened.
though? Wait, tell us that grind because there's a
The
lot of
grind.
newer comics that are members of this group that just the glitz and glamour of LA or like moving to New York and I'm in it, but like we had Sean Patton on here who broke down the grind of New York comedy. Like
Yeah.
I've never heard just the brutal reality of it. Like what is the grind?
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, in New York, I'm sure it's different, but I mean, my grind in LA was, I was able to do, I kept hearing like, it's hard to get shows in LA, but luckily I was able to be, have shows pretty regularly, at
Hmm.
least one a week, which was like pretty good for LA, of like a book show. And
Wow.
then you have like your open mics and things like that. But yeah, book shows are harder to get more consistent in LA. I think the most I went without doing a show in LA was like 2 weeks. And that was like, I
Oh my
need
gosh.
I need to be on a show. Um, so yeah, doing that, going on the road. Luckily, I would I love Austin, and the club here would always like give me time if I wanted to work out an hour. That's the hard thing too when you're grinding in LA. You're not going to get more than 10 minutes, if you're 8 minutes.
Mm.
So it's like hard to kind of work on a longer set in LA because you just get like 5, 7, 8 minutes at a time. So luckily, whenever I needed to work on longer sets, I'd come home to Austin. They'd let me headline here and things like that. So
Yeah,
it
and
kind
doing
of,
it 10 years in Austin, I think,
mm,
is probably beneficial in terms of just figuring out how to do comedy before you move to
oh,
LA.
yeah, I was talking with someone recently. Like, I know so many people that start in LA,
Mm.
and I'm just like, damn, I can't imagine. It seems really hard to start there, but people do it, and fucking like the people I know that started in LA are like the hardest like grinders in the grind,
Hmm.
But I think I'm lucky that I was able to start in Austin. There's such a like tight community here with stand up. I did improv and sketch too. So I kind of like was able to do everything, and it was nice to kind of like, you know, kind of get decent before I went to LA, you know.
Yeah, and what was that decision? What went into actually deciding? Okay, I'm gonna make the leap.
Yeah, I was always terrified to make the leap. I didn't want to. I was kind of like that, like, nah, I'm just gonna stay in Austin and be like just do everything here and fucking be in Austin, kill it here. But then so every year there's this contest, funniest person in Austin contest. And I did that like 3 or 4 years. I got third place twice. Thank you very much. Big,
Oh.
yeah, never won. Just third place or second runner up, as I like to say. But but from doing the contest so much, I actually got JFL. One of the judges was a guy from JFL, and he was like, "Come and be a new face." And so I went to JFL, and I was a new face, and then from there, I got a manager, and she was like, "Hey, you should come to LA if you wanna kind of make bigger steps." And I was like,
Oh.
no, I don't want to. But then she was like, no. And then everyone, I have such a great like family and friends, and everyone's like, no, you should go. So I went, and yeah, luckily, knock on wood, things went well. you know?
Yeah, that's how I am here in
Yeah.
Atlanta. Is
Mhm.
I've been doing comedy 10 years, and I always had the mindset. I had friends that would move to LA and New York and just sleep on
Mm.
couches and that, but I was always like, I would rather do it, like you said, from Austin. I want to do it from Atlanta. I kind of want to build success here to show other comics that they don't have to move to get
Yeah.
success.
Oh yeah, I was totally on that train with, especially like Atlanta and Austin are very like, like up and coming like
Hmm.
scenes, and like have bigger comedy scenes. Like I've been to Atlanta, and you guys have a great comedy scene there. And it's very similar to Austin, where you're like, I'm comfy here.
Yeah.
I got my shows, I got the people I run with, and also like big names come here, and like you can open for them and things. So, and like there's people make movies here, and there's opportunities here, like for sure. So that's why I was like, nah, you don't have to leave. But I felt comfortable doing it when I did it. I was 32 and I got a manager. So I was like, okay, fine. And my boyfriend stayed in Austin. So I kind of had the safety net. I was like, don't come to LA because if things don't
Uh-huh.
work out, I could just come home, you know?
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, like
So,
you've been methodical in your
mm,
journey and just kind of because you went to college doing theater and then
yeah.
sketch and improv and then you went into stand up. So you've kind of almost done it like kind of piece by piece, learning skill by skill.
Yeah, just a little bit at a time. Because I don't know. I guess I've always wanted to do comedy since I was little. I never imagined that I would do the things I've done and have a Comedy Central special. Like that still like boggles my mind. But I've just been like the whole way I've just been like I'm gonna do it because it's fun and I love it and but I never expected anything I guess you know
Ah.
and the things just like kind of came.
Yeah, and
So
starting
I'm
starting comedy, a lot of people like they want to do comedy, but they're scared. Maybe they're writing jokes, but they're scared to jump into comedy. And you were the same where there was like a fear of like I can do sketch and improv, but stand-up's another beast. So like what went
oh yeah.
into making that decision to pursue it and like what advice do you have for someone on the fence about I want to do it, but
Oh yeah, I was totally scared. I told myself I'll never do stand up. That's terrifying. I need a group with me. But I started doing, with sketch and improv, like keeping a group together it becomes so hard because everyone's
Mhm.
doing 10 million things. People start getting married, having babies. So I was like, okay, I guess I'll do my own thing. And I started doing solo sketch shows, which was like I was in character still. Like I was still terrified to be Vanessa on stage. And but being alone, it kind of helped me like do characters but be by myself. And then my friend Lisa Friedrich actually, she's a comic here in Austin, and she runs like so many stand-up shows. And she was like, "Hey, I'm gonna book you on one of my shows, and you're just gonna do it." And I was like, no. And
Mhm.
she's like, you'll just 5 minutes. She's like, if you want to get out in three, that's fine. Like, I just think she like really just like pushed me off the cliff
Oh, that's
and
great.
was like, do it. And I was like, but I don't know. I don't know how to write jokes. Like, I do characters, I do improv. And she's like, just tell a story. Like, you got stories, you're funny. And that's what I did. I just told like a story about my mom. And now all that's mainly like what I do when I write jokes is just all based on real shit that I've gone through. So now I think like of my jokes as just like little kind of stories that I make funny. So that's how I've approached it ever since.
Yeah, that's what I admire about your comedy, what I enjoy. And if we were to use an example of one, like
Mhm.
the underwear story, which everyone needs to go watch. If you're listening to this later, go like just search this on YouTube. It's hilarious. And what I love is it is based in truth. It's based in reality. It's a story that has beats and an arc. But how your humor is based in truth, which we all strive for, but how do you actually like have that experience? He bought me underwear. Well, I don't want to give away the joke, but like how do you take it from this happened to now, okay, this needs to be able to translate to stage, which there's a big misconnect there.
Yeah, I mean, so that really did happen. It was a
Mhm.
traumatic thing that upset me. And I think anytime it's kind of like my therapy, right? Like this thing bothered me and then I just kind of take it like piece by piece, like
Mhm.
when I set it up, which is kind of like a problem now because all of my jokes are like 5 to 10 minutes long, which is
Mhm.
not ideal when you're in LA and they only give you 4 minutes or whatever. Because I'll just like kind of start it piece by piece. I'll like set the stakes, especially if people don't know who I am. I'm like, okay, so this is my first boyfriend. This is a big deal for me. he bought me underwear, and I kind of just like lay it out so that people know the backstory of like, oh, this isn't just any
Mm.
like guy buying a girl underwear. Like this was a huge deal for me. And then yeah, the underwear looked huge when I took them out of the bag, and I was mortified. And but then they fit perfectly. And so kind of like I'll start by like testing it out on open mics, like just storytelling, and I'll write down beats, and but I don't really know where I'm gonna go if I'm trying to joke out for the first time. And so I'll start a joke and it'll be like 10 minutes long, and then I'll start like cutting it down to where, oh, it feels just like tight and it's just all punchy.
So do you write it all out and then, or do you go on stage and just try to tell the story as it happened?
Yeah, I'll just try to tear it. I'll do like beats, bullet points.
So like
Oh,
this, I want to hit this that happened, this that happened, and that happened.
yeah, and
Okay.
and I'll be like, okay, I know for sure this is funny, and I know that though I have 5 minutes. So to me, I don't know if this happens with everybody, but I'm always like, I'll talk, and I'm thinking like 5 minutes seems forever, but I end up, and then I get the light. I'm like, damn it, I thought I had
Mm-hmm.
way more time.
Yep.
So I kind of like, I'll definitely take myself, listen to it over and over again. And then once I like try it a couple times in like open mics, then I'll start like writing it down and trimming it. I'll be like, oh, that didn't work. It's kind of like I'll solo improv by myself the story until
Uh-huh.
I make something of it. So I'll just keep saying it, and then kind of like make it, mold it into something as I go.
And when do you know when it's time to let go of something?
Oh, when I'll do it sucks because like I'll think things are hilarious,
Oh yeah.
and I'm like, oh, I gotta leave this in. But I'll say it like 4 or 5 times and no one laughs at it. And then my boyfriend will finally be like, yeah, that's not funny. And I'm like, it is. It
Mhm.
is. So yeah, I'll try it a couple of times before I'm like, fine, I'll finally get the hint. And I'm like, nobody laughs at this part, so I'll cut it out.
Well, some comics do it for months, before
Yeah.
they kill it. So you're realistic enough to be like 4 or 5 times. All right, let me just move on. There's more out there.
Yeah. Yeah.
You mentioned the underwear story being traumatic to you. Like when it
Mm,
happened, you say it was traumatic. So how long did it
yeah.
take you to actually be like, okay, I'm ready to start talking about this?
Well, it's funny. I remember it happened, and then like 2 days later, I had a show, and I was like, I'm gonna talk about this because one, I was like, I'm tired of my old jokes. I don't
Uh-huh.
want to, when you reach a point where you're like, I don't want to say these anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, they're good. They'll get you the little laughs, but you're like bored of them. So I'm like, I don't want to say any of these jokes. I'm gonna just talk about this new thing that happened. And so it's pretty like immediate for me. Like if something happens, I want to talk about it as soon as possible, because then I still have that like it just happened excitement. And like
Yeah.
I feel like it's so fun for me when I have something like, I'm like, y'all, you're never gonna believe this. Or, something happened, or something was said. And so I like to say it as soon as I can after it happened.
And then a challenge can be to replicate that excitement the
Yeah.
10th, 20th, 30th, 40th, 50th. How are you able
Mm.
to perform a joke that may be old but perform it as if it's new?
Well, that's the hard part. I think that for me, I get bored with jokes real fast.
Hmm.
Like I think I told this one joke that was also traumatic, and everyone like kept telling me like, do it again, do it again. I'm like, it's not fun for me anymore. But it was kind of similar with the underwear, where I went to a water park with my boyfriend, and the ride kept yelling, heaviest rider must go in the back. And it was just like over and over again, like the heaviest rider must go in the back. And I'm just looking at him like, I'm not going in the back. Sorry, you know. So there's this whole joke about this water slide. And I said it for like a year. And then I was like, I can't say this anymore. It's done. Like, I just had no more juice behind it. You ever feel that when you like
Oh,
got a joke
hmm
and you're like it's good, but it's just like I don't have the juice that it needs to be told anymore.
it's very interesting that you referencing
Mhm.
that experience was traumatic as well. Like that's
Yeah.
something Ron Funches
Yeah.
Ron Funchen, he talked about on here about how he had a breakthrough in his comedy when he started talking about things that embarrassed him.
Mhm.
Is that where you're finding your best material? Is it has to be traumatic, or it has to be that would or otherwise be a secret that I have to say on stage?
Yeah, I think it's like fun and like especially when things like that happen, instead of dwelling on them of like, oh, I can't believe it, and like kind of turning it into like self-hate. I'm like
Hmm.
making fun of it, because I'm like, in the end, I'm not really letting it bother me because I do see the humor in it. So I'll like make fun of it and make light of it, and kind of like helps me not, yeah, turn it into like something that I may like hate myself for,
Oh, that's true. Yeah, I guess that
Yeah.
it could turn into resentment or fester. I guess it's good to get it out there and it takes away the power of that trauma.
Yeah, and it's like I realize when I talk about like traumatic things or embarrassing things, I think that's what people like relate to more and latch
Mm.
on to more. Like especially when you're trying to connect with the audience, I think that they're able to be like, oh, been there, or like I would never, I would never talk about this, or they kind of like connect with you more when you're going like pretty personal with stories.
But it's so scary. Like and it's
Yeah.
uncomfortable. Like, I've been doing it
Yeah.
10 years and I just recently like recorded my first special to get rid of
Mm.
all that older material, to
Yeah, yeah.
then force myself to be like, okay, it's time you really start peeling back the layers. And this all happened literally like I self-produced it, did it all myself, released it in February, and
That's
then
awesome.
March happened, and now we've been in quarantine. So it's
Right.
like, it's like, but it is peeling back that onion is like scary, even for me doing it 10 years. It's a tough bridge to cross, but I'd imagine once you start, it becomes easier.
Yeah, I think like I don't know. I think for me, I've just never been good at the like setup punchline. And the people that are like really good at that, I'm like
Hmm.
so in awe of, because my brain just doesn't think that way. I'm like, my tweets are like, you know, but because I'm like, let me pull you in, let me set it up, let me tell you a story, I like to do act outs, I like to, be physical, and that's like my thing. Um, but yeah, I feel like there's those two ways of doing stand up, but I think both are like their own like craft. You gotta be good at, and they both take hard work.
Yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
want to get more personal, but it always has been a barrier, and even if I do get personal, I will hide behind a punchline. Like I'll hide behind cleverness as opposed to being like, "No, this is what happened" type deal.
Right.
So it
Yeah.
is just ripping the band-aid off. But that's yeah.
Yeah. It's hard. And then sometimes like people will like, I don't know, I'm just trying to like be honest and talk my truth. Like I have this bit about how I'm not scared of my parents anymore, and that's like really hit home with a lot of people, because people are in their like 30s like me, and they're like, oh god, no, I'm still terrified. And I'm like, fuck them, what are they gonna do? They can't do shit to us. Wake
Right.
up, people. And I was telling this joke like early, I think it was like in January this year, and this woman walked out because she was like, "You're so disrespectful. I can't believe you would say those things about your parents." And I'm like, "What?" Like they're not here, you know. I'm
Mm-hmm.
talking shit behind their back. And also like, yeah, I'm still scared of them, you know. So I think it's like, yeah, I think some people are into it and other people like take it too in, and they're like really like, oh, you're being offensive, or they're like, oh, I'm so sorry that happened to you with the
Mm-hmm.
underwear. That's And I'm like, oh, I'm making fun
Underwear.
of it. Yeah.
It's such a good joke. I mean, you really. We'll
Yeah.
link it in the show description as well. But
Yay.
it's such a good story. Um, oh, and we got some people popping in with questions here as well.
Oh.
Ooh.
Ooh.
So this one actually comes from Robin Sutton Clark, asking how much improv. Oh, she waved at you, Robin. Yeah, they're watching live right now. This is great. And she asks how much improv goes into stretching out a joke, and how much is hack? Is it like, can you go too far with it?
Mm-mm. I guess. I mean, I try. When I mean I'm like improvising a joke, I don't try to get like too hacky with it. I try to stay truthful to the story, and when I improvise, it's in the like embellishments, or like if I'm relating it to something, like in the details is where like I'll improv, where
Ooh.
like in the underwear story, I'm like, oh, I pulled them out and they did look huge, but in the improv, I'll like keep unraveling it to like make it be bigger, and I'm like, I didn't know he thought I was fitted sheet size, things like
Yeah.
that. Like I'll improv the details, but not too much of like I'm you know honking my nose, or
Of
making
course.
making random shit up. So
Oh, I love that improv and the details. And did
mhm.
that fitted sheet line come in improv where you were just kind of rattling off
Yeah.
ideas of how big it was?
Right.
It's
Yeah.
great.
So it's like you're kind of like in the moment, you're like finding like things to compare it to and things like that. So yeah, I feel like I like to improv the details and the embellishments, and kind of like I feel like it's like coloring in, like you have
Yeah.
your like outline of the story, and then you're just coloring it to make it look prettier and funnier.
I love that. I
Yeah.
absolutely love that. Um, this one ties in to, yeah, really the writing process. As Amanda O asks, what's your writing process like, and how do you generate new material?
Well, yeah, I feel like like what we were talking about earlier is like something will happen, and then I'll just bullet point it. I don't really like to write anything out until I like try it out on stage, and I'll just be like, oh, I'm gonna take a shot and just talk about this thing that happened, or this conversation that I had with my mom, or this interaction I had at the store. Is like, I'm gonna write it down. This was kind of like weird and funny, So
Hmm.
I'll make bullet points, and then I go to open mic or now Zoom show, and just kind of test it out, and kind of figure out if I can like find a path for it or build it out with improv on stage. And then sometimes it's like, yeah, there's something there, and I'll like after the set, I'll like write down like, oh, that's good, that sticks. But a lot of the times it's also like, wow, I just talked for 2 minutes and nothing.
Yeah.
So you switch gears. So it's all about like taking risks. It's like trying. It's like, okay, I'm gonna tell you about this thing that happened. And I think it's particularly interesting now with the Zoom shows, because everyone's kind of going through the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, how do we not just have a whole Zoom show of all of us talking about how shitty everything is? So
Yeah.
trying to keep it like personal to me and my experience. I'm like, that's how I kind of like not sound like, everyone else. I'm like, what was my personal experience on this or day or something.
What about generating ideas? Because writer's block can
Mhm.
really handicap a lot of us. Like, how do you
Mhm.
overcome writer's block?
Well, it's hard, A lot of the times, I don't really like to write a joke unless I get that like excited feeling in my stomach, of like, oh, that was, like the underwear thing that happened or the slide or something.
Hmm.
Um, but whenever I can't do anything, I had a friend, well, I have a friend, his name's CJ Hunt. We used to do writing sprints together
Hmm.
where we would just kind of like name a name a topic, like random topic, and then put 5 minutes on the clock or 3 minutes, and then we would just sit and write down like premises based on that topic, and that was like kind of helpful just to kind of get the gears going. And sometimes you're like, okay, we're going to talk about uh you know uh I don't know, one night stands, and then we write down stuff that made us think about for 5 minutes. Sometimes there's something there, sometimes there's not. So yeah, we would do exercise like that, but I feel like lately I don't write something unless I like get excited about the thought, you know.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah, in this Facebook group, we actually do a daily writing club. It's called the Write
Oh,
10
nice,
Club. And
nice.
we get a random word, and then we spend 10 minutes writing,
Oh,
trying to write a joke about it.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
that's the same.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
awesome. Same
yeah,
wavelength.
yeah.
Great. Yeah, and I like you start your jokes from a place of like, this was traumatic, or this was weird, or this was funny, or this makes me excited. So you start with a
Hmm.
connection with the joke before you even take it to the stage. That's super valuable.
Yeah, yeah, like just things that came up. Recently, I wrote a joke. I was diagnosed with fatty liver recently. So I have this whole bit about my experience going to the doctor, her telling me, and how I, wish I would have reacted to it.
Hmm.
Yeah, so just like making things that I experience, but in like a funny or fun way with a story.
I love it. And well, we got a storytelling question as well. But Michelle, not to put you on the spot, but she asks if you would join us in the Right 10 Club sometime.
Oh, sure, that sounds fun.
Yeah, that would be, if you're in
Yeah.
Austin, you're central, or is that?
Mm. Central, yeah.
Yeah, that would be 9 a.m. But there's comics in
Oh.
Australia that tune in, and it's midnight
Okay.
where they are. So
Okay.
maybe
I
we'll
mean,
make
midnight
something.
would work for me more than
That's
9.
true.
Yeah.
That's true. I
But
forgot we're comedians. Yeah.
yeah, comedians with no jobs. I don't need to be up at night. So.
We're starting a 10 p.m. one as well. We're gonna
Okay.
start. They're getting so busy. We're gonna start doing like two a day.
Oh, awesome.
Well, we will. Yeah, we'll circle back on that, Vanessa. Thank
Yeah.
you. Uh, and so June asks, what do you think the biggest mistake storytellers make?
Oh, um, mistake. I don't know. I've seen like a lot of different types of storytelling, and I feel like as long as you're staying like true to your like perspective and honest, like I think that's what like really brings
Hmm.
people in, like I was saying with the audience and what connects with a story. If you're being like vulnerable, I think you're on the right path. But if you're just kind of like talking to, I think where I've made a mistake before is like writing like with the intention of like being funny, writing a story where like this is going to be hilarious,
Guilty.
but
Yeah.
then it doesn't go anywhere,
Yeah.
but if I write a story first with like a beginning, middle, and end with like just the actual like facts of what happened, and then pepper in the jokes and color it in, like I said, then I have a better story and it feels like fuller. But I've told stories, or I've attempted to tell or improv a story where I was like, ooh, I didn't have anything going in. And I was just like, this one little seed happened and then it went nowhere.
That's great.
Yeah.
Oh, and Michelle said it's 9 a.m. where she is as well when she writes. So
Oh,
no pressure. But Van Carey is in
okay.
Australia. He's watching right now, and he said it's 5:40 a.m. in Australia
Oh,
right now, and he's watching.
all right. So I don't have an excuse then. That's fair.
Oh boy. And this is a good one here from Joey Rizzuto, asking what were some worries you had starting off? What had to happen to overcome them? And do they ever come back? And do you have any new worries now?
I feel like what I loved about starting off is like I didn't have worries. I felt like I
Hmm.
took way more risks because I was like, I don't give a fuck, like I'm starting at this, I'm new, and there was like less fear because I was new. And then I think after the special and now I get in my head more of like, oh, I have to live up to something, and I have to like everything has to be as good as the pizza underwear story
Hmm.
and things like that. So I feel like I put more pressure on myself that I'm trying to like shake and be like get back to that place. Like I remember when I was just starting in improv and sketch where it would be the dumbest idea, but I would totally just go for it. And I want to get back in that zone. And I think that's what's like the funniest now. That's what makes me laugh now when I watch stand up specials or any type of comedy where it's like the dumbest premise, but and you're like, oh, they're having so much fun. I want to do that. I want to get back to that place.
But you were actually worried to even try stand up. So
Right.
how did you overcome that fear?
Well, like I said, my friend Lisa just kind of threw me
Oh, so it was
into the
just back
deep
against
end.
the wall. Okay.
Yeah, back against the wall. But to be fair, after I did that first show and it was okay, I didn't die, and it wasn't the worst. I just kept trying at it, trying, and I did tr- start writing like set up punchline type jokes, and I realized those didn't work for me. So then I just leaned more into the storytelling and just kept going with that little by little, and like tried to grow material as I went. But I feel like till this day stand up is the one that gives me the most nerves
Hmm.
out of all of them. Doing improv during sketch, after a while you're like with your friends, you're like, oh, I don't care. But every time you do stand up you have that little like, here we go, it could be good, it could be bad, and it's all on you.
Yep. Because
You
even you
know?
kind of eased into it. Your first set was you doing like a
Mhm.
character, like a monologue almost of like your mom. So that even
Mhm.
you had to kind of like, all right, I gotta just pull the band-aid off and start trying to do material type deal.
Yeah, and like talking as me and being
Yeah.
on it, and I think it was just like a preference of like I was like, what kind of stand up do I like to watch? And I just liked watching stand ups that get vulnerable and say real shit, and that just like hit home with me. So I just leaned into that.
Yeah, or Def Jam
Mhm.
as well. You'd get
Yeah.
into.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah,
I love Def Jam.
yeah.
So good.
What'd you like about it?
Just like the way the people would react. Like that's still like a goal of mine, to have a Def Comedy Jam moment where just people are like running out the room and just dying on the floor in front of you because what you just said was the funniest shit they've ever heard. And yeah, and that's what, like, I feel like the comics on Def Comedy Jam were so like real and vulnerable and like talking about real shit, and that's why like everyone's like like
Yeah,
dying over it with
seriously.
this. Yeah.
Well, to keep it real here, or keep it 100,
Mm.
keep it a bean, yeah, I mean.
Yeah.
We have a special guest actually. I want to bring in here as we start to land this plane. I want to bring in a fan of yours to
A fan.
ask you a few questions as well.
Okay.
So without further ado, please welcome the reason we're all here today. Give it up for the one and only Chris Grulon, ladies and gentlemen. Let's welcome him to the show here. Let's see if he's is he there? Oh wait, hold on. Oh no. Wait. What happened? Wait, there we are. Sorry. I had to make sure the stream it was just me for a second. We're here.
I'm live from my son's bedroom.
Yeah.
Chris, my man. Thank you first off for even recommending Vanessa and making this happen.
Yeah, thank you so much. That's so nice. I remember watching you on that Zoom show because it was like 12 people and you weren't laughing at anybody. So I was like,
It's
I'm
the
not going to
comedian in
get
me.
I was like, I'm not going to get him.
You know what? It was so funny because you had that one joke about being a snake charmer.
Uh-huh.
Hilarious. We were dying, my wife and
I. Yeah, I play the flute to arouse my boyfriend.
to keep it socially distant.
Yes,
Hilarious.
yeah, thank you.
Oh, so what yeah, please, Chris, this is you have the floor, my man. Whatever you'd like to ask.
As a comedian watching Zoom shows, I
Mhm.
start to analyze, so I don't laugh as much. What I don't know is that the comedians are taking snapshots of me and then
Yep.
throwing me into their jokes, and that's what happened last time.
Yeah, I thought that was hilarious.
Yeah. So I did have a couple of questions.
Yeah.
How do you feel comedy is changing during the pandemic? Do you think that the Zoom shows are something that's going to stay, or are you more comfortable doing the Zoom shows?
I feel like it's so interesting because I've been doing them pretty regularly, and I'm like, nobody wants these, right? But every time I do them, like people are fucking like cooking and like got it on in the background. People are sitting in their cars, like they're just like, I gotta get away. I'm gonna watch this stand-up show in my car. Like, it's cool to see that people still want comedy even in this format. So that's nice. I think though that people will like just like with anything. Like I'm here in Austin, everything's open. Like nobody, if people hear pandemic, they're like, no, I still need to go to a bar and drink. So I feel like they're the way they want to be out and pretend like everything's fine. I think that comedy will always like be wanted and needed. But I don't know. I wonder if even when like there's live shows again and like people are doing them safe. Oh, sorry, is that me? I wonder if Zoom shows will still stay a thing because it's nice to be able to be like, hey, I'm doing a show in LA with someone in New York and in Atlanta, and it's like fine. So I
So
hope it
I've
kind of
done Zoom
stays.
shows
'Cause it's fun.
with everybody from New York to Australia. So it's been a great way to network. Have you been able to expand your network because of the Zoom shows?
Yeah, I feel like it's been nice to, like I said, to do shows with like comics from all
Right.
the way around, from all over, and yeah, especially because before without this, which is funny because we could have been doing this the whole time, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like, oh, I gotta get my ass to New York, and I gotta go there for like 2 weeks, do the grind there, so they kind of know who I am, and I kind of like make my name known there. I gotta go Atlanta, so it's like all like touring is was the mindset before this.
Mhm.
So it's nice to have like this so that you kind of can make connections all over without going anywhere.
I like that. I like that.
Hmm.
So, I'm right down the street from you in New
Yeah.
Braunfels.
Yeah,
So
my brother lives there actually.
everything is open here, and it's kind of scary because we don't know
Mhm.
when the pandemic is going to end in Texas because no one
Mhm.
cares apparently.
Right.
Um,
Yep.
so now I'm going to be 38 this year.
Ah.
How can I say a joke about my mom without fearing her?
Well, it's funny because my mom is crazy, and she loves the jokes I tell about her. Like
Hmm.
she's that like cuz she knows she's like kind of self-aware and she knows she's ridiculous, but I think she's also a narcissist. So she loves like when I make fun of her in the Comedy Central special I accuse her of having an affair and she had to sign a waiver saying that she would not sue me. And she's like, "Oh, I don't care. This is hilarious. Oh, say which other jokes are you gonna say?" Like, so she's like, she loves it. She likes the attention. I think she likes to come to my shows, and then I make fun of her. And after the shows, she's always like, "Hi, I'm the mom," and she's like taking pictures with people. She loves
Yeah,
it.
it's so
So,
funny because I've been doing a joke a day now. I don't know, for like 45 days.
no, nice.
As my daughter walks in the background. I don't know if you see her.
Yeah.
I
Hi.
saw the door
So
open and I was like, "Is this the ring? What just happened?"
Yeah.
I was like,
yeah,
"Ah!"
she's a ninja. So
Hi.
I I've been throwing jokes out for about 45 days, and a lot of them have to do with my mom. And I got a text message the other day saying, "Real quick, do you have any jokes about your wife?"
Oh well, yeah. I don't know about wife jokes because when I make fun of my boyfriend or what I never make fun of my boyfriend. He's always in the jokes, but he's never the butt of the joke.
Hmm.
Mm,
Which I always try to stay mindful of. And he's
yeah.
totally fine. He's like, as long as you're not like making fun of me, you can say whatever. And I always make it a point that I'm the butt of the
Mm.
joke. Yeah.
Yeah, me
Um,
too with my wife material. And Nate Bargatze said the same thing on here about if he ever made a joke about his wife, people didn't like it as much as if it
mm,
was he was the butt of the joke. So that's
right.
always a good little cheat to make jokes
Yeah.
about it without it being about it type deal.
Yeah, like things that happen, situations, conversations. I mean, naturally are funny, right, in relationships.
Hmm.
But people love when my mom's the butt of the joke.
Oh,
I
okay.
think I think everyone's like got something with their moms.
All right. Is there anything else, Chris?
One more. The special that you recorded. My birthday's tomorrow.
Oh yeah,
Hilarious.
yeah. Oh,
That
thank
bit
you.
about calling your parents and telling them to go screw themselves. Love it.
Yeah. Thanks.
I did have a question about adapting to the Zoom culture because so many established comics
Mhm.
feel that this is hack,
Mhm.
um, and they don't want to do Zoom cultures. But then when they do go on a mic live, they're
Mhm.
rusty. Do you feel that these Zoom shows are helping you stay sharp?
Oh, absolutely. And that's really why I'm doing them. I do see that like a lot of comics are like shitting on them but I think that's like part of it and I think what I've always uh tried not to like get my whole head around is the whole negative like
Right.
talking because I here in Austin it's like a very supportive community. You go to LA, it's also I was very surprised in like how supportive the comedy community in LA was too. But you're gonna get like comics that shit talk or that's hack and all this stuff. But what I feel like it's like I don't know, it's like a personal growth thing. But I started being hard on myself when I stopped judging and shitting on other comics. Like
Yep.
Mm.
when I was just like open and like supportive and like, it's like, yeah, maybe it's not my thing, but I'm not gonna shit talk anybody. Like they're trying something and
Mhm.
that's cool, and I think that's like I don't know why it became this whole thing as like a comic. You got to be like, that's fucking bullshit.
Yep.
That fucking. It's like, what? We're all trying to just make people laugh. Why are we shitting on each other?
Yes.
You
So,
know?
one
Oh,
of the things that I
amen.
really enjoyed about the Zoom comedy is
Mm,
that you can get a night where you can have four headliners on one show, and you would
yeah.
never see that in a comedy club. And then
Yeah.
on top of that, some of them do Q&As afterwards, and
Mhm.
you're only paying like $10, which is insane to me. But
Yeah.
I did want to plug in our show, September 19th. We'll be doing a
Yeah.
show together
Yeah.
on
What?
Zoom. Yep, I'm producing a show with.
What?
Yep,
Oh my
uh,
gosh, that's so
Yes.
awesome.
yep, and it's
Yeah.
because of this Right 10 group.
Nice.
So I'm producing a show. Vanessa's headlining, and
Oh, I'm gonna cry.
I have comedians
I love
from
it.
Oakland, LA, and Laredo on it.
Hell yeah. I'm from Laredo.
I know.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's so cool, man.
Yep,
Yeah,
Oh my
September 19th.
gosh. I just
that's awesome.
I just love and well, one, I love like your mindset behind comedy, Vanessa, in terms of, well, first you did want to just develop and get good and develop in your own city and create your own success. And then also it is like, yeah, we're all what's the hate for? We're all trying to just make people laugh. Like there's no need to have
Mhm.
negativity around this really fun art form. And it's just they're
Yeah,
doing something that's great for them, you know?
yeah, and I think like I said, I've always just loved doing comedy, and I've always just kind of like made an agreement with myself of like, hey, this is the thing I love. I'm always gonna have to do it myself somehow, whether it's producing my own shows or getting out there. And then, but I never like expected anything, and it's like, okay, yeah, the things come, which is nice, but I still believe that as as I get older, I'm always gonna have to make shit myself, record my own albums. I could, record my own special. Like you don't have to wait for, that you can make shit happen. You can
Mhm.
produce your own shows and like be a nice person and not shit on anyone while you do it.
And
Yes.
that's what's been hard is becoming a new comic in the area, because I'm in the San Antonio group, and trying not to get sucked into the politics of it while still growing. That's my son. So
Yeah.
trying to still grow as a comic
Hmm.
and not burn any bridges with anybody in the scene, and while everybody's choosing sides, it's really hard.
Yeah, it's interesting when there's like, I think every comedy scene has its own
Mhm.
dramas and like cliques and stuff, but it's, I think you got to not get sucked into that and just stay, focused on you and your writing and just being like nice and open. I think my one of my friends, LaShonda Lester, she passed away a couple years ago. She was a great comic, and she always told me like, all you have to do is be funny and be nice.
Mhm.
Mm.
That's all you got to do.
The, the
And
the
so,
best the best advice I've been given was
mm,
worry about your set, and their opinions don't pay your bills, because when you get on stage, it's only you and the mic.
yeah, and it's like, and even like when you go to open mics or Zoom shows, I like to watch and I like to laugh at the other
Mhm.
comics. Like, you can't go up, you can't watch a whole show like this and being
Mhm.
just like judging and shitty, and then you expect to go up there and get laughs when you
Yep.
didn't give any love or support. And it's like,
So
yes,
then, circling back to your Zoom show, I
mm,
apologize if I didn't say
yeah,
it that way.
Ah! With the
you know,
callback on him.
with the callback.
No, but
Uh,
one thing I learned was the Hot Comedy Festival was here in San Antonio,
oh
uh,
yeah.
premiering on HBO Max tonight.
Mhm.
Huh.
But one thing I saw was the veteran comedians sitting in the back, watching all the new people. And
Mhm.
then when the new people were done, they would give them a napkin or a notepad saying, "Hey, try this on your joke. Try adding this." And I've never seen that before, and it opened me up to say, uh, "We're here to help each other grow." You know what I mean? So it was really,
Yeah.
really cool to see, and I really appreciate you even doing the Zoom show with me,
That's
because you
Yeah,
don't
so
have to.
cool.
absolutely. Yeah. No, It's all about that. I don't know why it's been a culture of like we can't help each other.
Mhm.
We're all like in a race against each other.
Right.
But it's like, no, we should, like, why not take a tag? Or, if we all have that comedy brain, and sometimes some comics see something, others don't. And, I'm all about it. And that's,
Mhm.
I think it's just like it makes your life better when you're just like not being negative
Yeah, because the
about.
first year I was walking in not knowing if I was funny enough, or am I doing this as a hobby? Am I going to take this more serious? And then I
Mhm.
entered the funniest comedian in Texas, and I
Mhm.
got into the semifinals in my first year.
Nice.
So then it made me think, okay, I do have something here. Let me
Mhm.
keep growing this. And so that's why I joined the Right 10 Club. It's been really helpful.
Yeah, yeah, that's so awesome that y'all do that. That's so cool, and I love that it just reinforces that whole like we're friends helping each other.
We
Yeah,
got one guy,
yeah.
Bob. He's kind of he thinks he's too funny.
Ah, yeah.
Well, you're always gonna have
Yeah.
that.
That's the whole thing with the group, though, is like we have core values, and it's like positivity, community, and productivity. So it's all
Hell
about
yeah.
community and positivity, but also, hey, we're here to get better at comedy. But everything's positive. Everything's positive because I learned from personal experience and doing this for 10 years. I'm sure you've expressed the same of, yeah, there's negativity and there doesn't need to be.
Yeah, I think it's silly, especially now with like comics shitting on Zoom shows. It's like, why? It's a fucking pandemic. Like, why are we? Everyone's just trying to figure out what works for them.
Right.
Like, I, how can you stand by the more of like, nah, I'm clubs only.
Right.
They're all closed.
And see that's the mentality that I don't understand, because with these
Yeah.
Zoom shows I was able to network with Mikey Winfield and
Mhm.
Frankie Marcos, and
Mhm.
I was able to get all these people to talk to me, to the point where Mikey sent me an email wanting an input on one of his flyers. I started promoting for him. That brought me to Renee, that brought me to you, and it's
Mhm.
opened up my network. And it would have never happened without this pandemic.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
crazy.
I think if you embrace it, it can. I think that goes with anything. Like you can make stuff work with you,
Hmm.
work for you.
Mm, I love this. I almost
Yeah.
made, when I heard you guys are doing a show together, I almost cried. I was like, oh my gosh, the hot
Yeah.
breathiverse at work. Oh,
Yep.
Yeah.
September 19th.
I love it. Yeah.
September 19th.
Well, we'll be sure to put a link in the show description also to if you have a registration for that show or whatever, Chris, we'll
Right.
definitely
I'm
share it.
I'm working on the event page tonight, and the flyer should be out tonight.
Perfect. And we'll get a link. We'll do a link to your album as well.
Yep.
I didn't see that on
Yeah.
your website, I don't think.
Yep.
Oh yeah. I told my little brother to update it, and he hasn't.
Okay, because I was like,
Yeah.
wait, what? Because I always research my
Yeah.
guests and I want to make sure. Yeah, because I didn't know that.
Yeah, I have an album. It's called My Birthday's Tomorrow. These are pins that I'm also selling.
Oh,
And that's
yeah.
like that's the cover of the album too. But yeah, check it out. I recorded it last year in October here in Austin.
Did you do it through it looks like the label was AST or something like.
Yeah, a Special Thing Records.
Okay.
Hmm.
So you did it through a record company. That's something we talked about with Sarah Tolamash last week because she went through a record
Hmm.
company as well, and we were like weighing the pros and cons of each route.
Yeah, I feel like it was definitely beneficial for me because I don't know what the fuck I'm doing with
Right.
recording shit. So it was nice that someone was like, "Hey, we'll do that all for you. You just go and tell your jokes." I'm like, "Sounds
Perfect.
good."
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, we'll
Yeah.
put links to that, and I definitely want to buy one of those pins. So I'll
Oh yay!
yeah, I definitely want to show support. And
Mhm.
the last question we always ask here is like your favorite, most helpful comedy advice you've ever received, or something you could kind of leave us comics with here.
Well, definitely. What my friend Lashonda Lester told me was, just be funny and be nice. And I think the best advice that I've heard from anyone is just always have fun with it. When it's, when you're being too serious or it's mad or it becomes about grudges and shit talking and negativity, it's like you're not doing it for the right reasons. You're there to make people laugh. So always have fun with whatever you're talking about.
Oh my gosh, I love it. This has been amazing.
Yeah.
You definitely express like the same intentions with comedy that we do here at Hot Breath. So it's been a thrill to have you on here.
Yeah, this was so fun. Thank you so much for having me.
Awesome, absolutely. So go forth. Support Vanessa and pick up her album, pick up a pen like I'm doing, and also support their show that they're doing together on September 19th. That's very exciting. Yeah, thumbs up. Thank you everyone for watching here live in the Facebook group as well. And if you guys want to watch this later, it'll be on our YouTube. It'll also be posted on our podcast as well, wherever you listen to your podcasts. But that's it for our Q&A with the one and only Vanessa Gonzalez, everyone. Give her a round of applause.
Thank y'all.
And we will see y'all next time, Hot Breathiverse. If you're serious about becoming a comedian, join our Facebook group linked in the description below to start getting tips like these every single day. And watch this playlist of our top writing tips to improve your writing today.